And hello. My name is David Pustansky, and this is the Mega Movie Podcast. The podcast where we talk about films, we talk about TV shows, we talk about all kinds of cult and geeky stuff. And wow, today we are going to be looking at WandaVision. WandaVision on Disney Plus. Episodes 1 and 2 dropped last Friday. And people have been waiting for this for an awful long time. And finally, it's here. Was it what people expected? Definitely not. Was it what some of us expected? Maybe. But I don't think it's exactly what any of us completely expected. Was it good? We will get into that. Was it bad? Some people definitely do seem to think so. Some people have given it great reviews. And I think it depends how you approach it, how you enjoy it. I think it depends how old you are, and I think it depends what kind of interest you have, how much you are invested into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So, for those of you who haven't seen it, there is definitely going to be spoilers. You should take it as read that there will be spoilers on all of these shows, because we're going to be getting into the storylines, the characters, and if we're talking about previews of things, then there may be some light spoilers, but obviously previews will be things I haven't seen. But this is an out-and-out review. Before we get into the review of WandaVision, I will just say that this is the Mega Movie Podcast. Wherever you were listening to it, feel free to hit that subscribe, smash that like button. If you're watching the video version, where it's just going to be just the audio, but you're watching it on YouTube, feel free to smash that subscribe button on youtube.com/extreme improv. And without further ado, let's now get into WandaVision. So for those of you who don't know what it is, WandaVision is a sitcom. It is a sitcom set within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And when I say it's a sitcom, it may not be a sitcom next week or the week after. From everything I understand, it will continue to be a sitcom. But it was a black and white sitcom in like 4x3, so like old square-shaped television set. And it was about Wanda Maximoff, so Scarlet Witch, who is now married to the Vision. Which, yeah, it's weird because Vision got killed in Avengers Age of Ultron. No, he was born in Age of Ultron. No, he got killed in Avengers Infinity War. So the Vision was killed twice, in fact. If you watched Infinity War, you'll know that Thanos was after the Infinity Stones, including the Mind Stone, which is in the forehead of the Vision. So the only way he could get it would be to extract it from the Vision, almost certainly killing him. Now, they ended up going to Wakanda, the Vision, with Captain America and Scarlet Witch and whoever else. And by the time Bruce Banner was there, they were talking about the idea that, well, Vision is part Bruce Banner, it's part Tony Stark, it's part Jarvis, it's the Mind Stone, it's all of these things, and they think that they could extract the Mind Stone and still have enough of Vision left so Vision could still exist. Of course, Thanos' army attacked, and they made a decision, look, it's not fair, said the Vision, but Wanda, you have the power, it's you've got to kill me to stop Thanos from getting this Mind Stone. It was funny, just because Vision got stabbed, really badly injured at the start of the film, but when you think about his first appearance in Age of Ultron, he was unstoppable. He's got so much power, and he has a literal Infinity Stone, and yet in this one they really made him weaker, just so that it would seem that he's the vulnerable one that they're going to get the stone from. So he was a bit useless, but Wanda then killed him, and she loved him, because they set that up, I think, in Captain America Civil War. And after that, it was, because obviously Wanda was the one that had the thing happen that killed T'Challa's dad or something like, no, I might be muddling this up, but there was something where she caused a disaster, and this is where they started saying about there needs to be a civil war because the Avengers cause harm. Anyway, that part of this story isn't important. So Wanda kills Vision. Thanos turns up, and he's got the time stone, so he just reverses time 30 seconds, Vision comes back to life, and then he kills him again, literally ripping the stone out of his forehead. And that's it, Vision is dead. As we saw in Avengers Infinity War, everyone got blinked with the blip, the click, and loads of them were able to come back in Endgame, but not the Vision, not Black Widow. And there is a thing about, does the MCU actually permanently kill any characters? Now, obviously, some characters have permanently been killed, but they're usually the bad guys of a movie, and if they're really popular, like Loki, they'll just keep bringing them back. A little bit like Kenny in South Park. So anyway, Vision is definitely dead. And then we see the end of Endgame. There's no Vision. We see Spider-Man Far From Home. There's no Vision. No hint that anything is still afoot with the Vision coming back. And just this starts and Vision is suddenly there. He's married to Wanda. He can, as we already seen, without, I think, explanation in Infinity War, he can make himself look like a human. Why he can suddenly do that, I don't think they've explained, but I'm sure it's justified somewhere in the comics, plus just how they often have Captain America without his mask on and Iron Man without his mask on. You know, Paul Bettany, who'd been the voice of Jarvis for ages, excuse me, probably was like, look, I want my face to be seen in this thing. So he looks like Paul Bettany, and it's easier to understand that Wanda would fancy him as a human rather than just as like this robot-looking cyborg thing. Although, you know, love is love, and they're living as a happily married couple in the 1950s. The episode seemed exactly like, if you'd seen them before, like Bewitched. The TV show Bewitched, not the Will Ferrell, I think Nicole Kidman film from about 2005 or whatever. That was terrible. But like the original TV series Bewitched, or I Dream of Jeannie, and other people, see, those are the shows I've seen because I'm in the UK and they've been played lots and lots over the years. But other people have said it's like the Dick Van Dyke Show, or trying to think what else they said it was like. But just that era of sitcom. Now, if you have seen that era of sitcom, you'll be like, I see what they've gone for here. If you haven't, if you're a 10-year-old who likes The Incredible Hulk or Spider-Man, you're going to probably be like, I don't get this. Why is it in black and white? I've never seen something in black and white before because I'm 10 years old. And it's going to be super weird for most people if they didn't watch those old shows. There is a laugh track. They're doing corny jokes, and the jokes are funny-ish in that you can sort of chuckle at them because, they're doing the Dick Van Dyke Show, I guess. But in reality, it wasn't funny enough for me in its own right. So it was something they went all in on. Like, if you watch Family Guy and or The Simpsons, and they've got something where it's suddenly in black and white and it's meant to be like an old sitcom, you would see, they're doing a parody, and I think most people would be on board with it. You'd watch it and you'd think, I see what you're going for there. You're doing all of the kind of jokes that they would normally do. You're probably pushing the boundary here or there. And you would accept it. But it wasn't the best example. It wasn't the funniest Bewitched. It wasn't the funniest I Dream of Jeannie. It was just like Bewitched or like I Dream of Jeannie. And then you're waiting for the, like, right, what's the thing you're pointing out? Or where's the joke that, okay, you're saying that this old style joke wasn't funny. So what's the smart, cynical, modern thing you're putting on top of it? Where it will be like, and that's why this is funny, to laugh at how it used to be. Except for it didn't do that. It was genuinely just like an average episode of I Dream of Jeannie. And that's really bizarre that they did that. Not only did they do that for the entire first episode, they did it for the entire second episode. 2 episodes were just like missing episodes of Bewitched. And I like Bewitched, so I enjoyed it. However, I know someone who watched the first episode and was like, I didn't get it. It was like it was a sitcom about an alien. Because also, even though they're big characters in the MCU, they're not Captain America level characters. They're not the Mighty Thor level characters. So they didn't quite get that Wanda was Scarlet Witch. They didn't really get that, this is Vision, but now he's looking like a human half the time, and sometimes he's just like this grey, bald alien, because he is grey. He was in black and white. He didn't look red. He didn't look like his usual self to help make him recognisable. It was just weird for some people. And I get that, and I think that was a mistake they made. The way I've put it to someone else is that this was a deception, because clearly, and we'll get into it in a second, there was something more going on here. There's more than meets the eye. It's like in the movie Pleasantville, where everything's in black and white, they're back in time, and suddenly things start to come into colour, and that's the exact same thing happened here. A few things started to turn up in colour. Like, literally the first drop of colour, I believe, I've only watched these through once, but the first bit of colour was a blinking light. When it blinked red. But it was so small on the screen. It took up such a small amount of screen real estate that I think an awful lot of people could still miss that. And it was subtle. And then towards the end of the first episode, there was obviously the bit where the boss of Vision, who's come around for dinner, he starts choking, and someone's like, stop it, stop it, stop it. Like the boss's wife, and I think it's repeating stop it, whatever she's repeating. It's just weird. And then you see internally Wanda is trying to remember something, and then it all, like, Vision helps him by using his superpowers, and he gets back up and everything seems normal. But there's just like, oh, something was weird there. And to me, what I can liken this to is Lost, the TV show Lost. If you haven't seen Lost, I won't jump into too many spoilers, even though it's 20 odd years old now. Well, not quite, 15, 16 years old. But what I will say is Lost was built around mysteries, and always adding more mysteries and trying to give you little clues towards the mysteries. And that was one of the most appealing things about watching it, is you as an audience were trying to spot clues and try and piece things together. This had a similar feel for me, but it was too good in its deception. It blended in too much to what it was supposed to be. When you'd watch Lost, they would purposely make it so that there were things that right in your face were like, oh, there's some noise in the trees and you can hear it, and that is a big mystery of what it is, but we're just not going to show you. And in a few episodes' time, we're going to show you someone looking at this thing, but we're not going to show you what they saw, and then we're not going to let the character actually spill the beans for 2 seasons or whatever. And you'd be like, oh, so what did he see, and what was this, and etc., etc. In this, a red blinking light is, no pun intended, blink and you'll miss it. It wasn't cluing us in enough that there's something amiss going on. We had Wanda and Vision saying about, oh, what day is it today? And people asking, so how did you meet? And they're like, And that could be interpreted a couple of ways. Because obviously they're superheroes. If this is them living their lives undercover, it might be that, oh, we don't have an answer to this. We didn't quite get enough of, I don't remember what this is. There should have been something. So say if the first 5 or 10 minutes of this half-hour episode was just like old sitcom, and something, a little hint of, oh, what is this day? Oh, is it our anniversary? What's this day on the calendar mean? And then they actually have the moment where they really say to each other, something doesn't feel right. What's going on? They put a little bit of ominous music, which just takes it away from the sitcom aspect. And so just as a viewer, you're like, oh, yeah, okay, so we've got to wait to see what really is going on. But they were so subtle with this. Within 2 episodes, they didn't really explore it. Because towards the end of the second episode, something happened. And I'll speak about this is the interesting thing when reviewing these episodes. The main plots of the episodes seemingly aren't that important right now. Unless there were events that happened within them that come back to be super important. It just feels like they were serving the purpose of being a 1950s sitcom. But I'll come back to those plots in a second. The end of the second episode, suddenly Wanda was pregnant, and they went outside because they heard a noise, and there was a person coming out of a hatch. So just to draw the comparison to Lost for those who get that reference, and he was dressed as a beekeeper. And suddenly time rewound, and she now isn't pregnant, but the whole world around them starts turning into colour, and it starts turning into colour like someone is turning the colour up on a television set. and things were slightly modernising, so it was going through perhaps the 1960s, or perhaps it's the 1970s. And from what I understand, the next episode might be like the Brady Bunch or something. Don't mean that to be spoilers, I don't know it for certain. It's just something inevitably you see or hear that people have compared it to that. So that, after the end of the second episode, you're almost an hour in before you're like, wow, things have just changed. The characters didn't seem to have any idea why things have just changed. And if I was to make the prediction now, I would guess that the next episode isn't going to pick up where the last one ended, with them saying, well, how can this suddenly happen? Why are things now in colour? How come we can see colour and we also see things in black and white, which people don't actually do? And it will just probably start, instead, it was going to start like, oh, well, we've got children now, because obviously she was pregnant. If it's going to be like the Brady Bunch, it's going to be like, we've got children now, the kids are going to school, and at some point, again, they'll suddenly bring up the idea of, ooh, is everything not as it seems here? So, it's weird. It's weird that they've kept it so subtle, because if it was like Pleasantville, and if you haven't seen the film, I believe it's Tobey Maguire who played Spider-Man. He ends up in an old movie, and it's like black and white around him, and his sister are there, and for a lot of it they're trying to blend in and be like things should be, but the whole time they have the awareness that they come from somewhere else. Wanda and Vision should have the awareness quite quickly that, hang on, we're somewhere where we're not supposed to be. Like, this would be great. I've always said to people that there should be like a show where you get the sense that there's something off, but then there's like the biggest reveal when you can watch back later. You're like, oh my god, so this was hidden in plain sight the whole time. And it feels like this is almost going for that. Except for the thing in which it's hidden in plain sight within is under the disguise of a 1950s black and white sitcom. And people weren't tuning in to see a 1950s black and white sitcom. They already had the expectation built up that it's going to be like the Avengers. If it was a brand new show and there was just like... So I'll give this as an example. Imagine if there was like a show which the first 5 episodes kind of look like a CSI. I'm not saying it's a CSI, but a show which kind of is like a police procedural. It's set in the modern times, and there are criminals, there's serial killers, there's some case, perhaps like each week they're trying to catch a different bad guy, but there is some hint that there is some bigger bad guy out there, some corporation or some serial killer that the main characters are after. And then in episode 5 or episode 6, you suddenly get the sense that, oh wow, there's something bigger going on. And suddenly they drop the bombshell on you that it's an alien invasion. And suddenly you go, what? Where's this come from? And people will be like, hang on, I thought this was like CSI, and suddenly it's an alien invasion. But then when they go back and watch the first 5 episodes, you're like, oh my god, all of the clues were there from the beginning, we just didn't pick up on it. And it's like this, where they've presented the first 2 episodes completely like it's episodes of Bewitched. Except for we know, because we expect it to be like the Avengers, that something else must be going on. The problem is that they've hidden the fact that something else is going on so well that they haven't explored it. The characters were almost oblivious to the fact that something else is going on. Now, like I just said, if it was like a CSI type show, and each week they were catching, drug runners and serial killers and stuff like this anyway, then the episodes can be exciting in their own right before we get the reveal that suddenly it's an alien invasion. The problem here with WandaVision is that if you're not on the in-joke of, oh, well, it's meant to be like Bewitched, and if you'd never seen Bewitched, or if you're a 10-year-old kid who's never seen a black and white sitcom from 60 years ago, 70 years ago, you're just not going to get this at all. You're just going to look at it and be like, okay, so the first episode is about Vision, who works in some office. His boss and his boss's wife are coming over for dinner, and now Wanda, who thought it was their anniversary, is having to rush to cook a meal, and hopefully the meal will go okay. Now that is an episode like... Well, I'm trying to think of the name of the boss in Bewitched. Larry David comes to my mind. That might be wrong, or that might be the actor or something. But Larry David comes to my mind. But say we'll call him Larry. Larry's coming around for dinner, and I can't remember the name of... Tabitha was the daughter in Bewitched. Sorry, I'm just trying to... And then we had Dick York, or Dick Sargent was the husband. But I can't remember those characters' names, which is annoying. So anyway, the main woman in Bewitched, the witch, she's now got to try and get dinner ready, but she can't show off her powers that she's a witch. And then chaos ensues, and it's funny. Great. That's great if you want to watch a show like Bewitched, and if you get into watching a show like Bewitched, you'll enjoy it. However, if you're expecting it to be, Black Panther and the Winter Soldier and stuff like this, and you just see it and it's like Bewitched, you'll probably be like, I don't get this. I don't get why it's like this. I don't see how this connects to anything. Why is there a laughter track? Is this meant to be like Deadpool, where it's breaking the fourth wall? Is there a joke? Because it doesn't acknowledge that there's some joke or something else going on, even though there clearly is. But because it doesn't acknowledge it enough, I think a lot of people were like, I don't get it. Because unless the boss becomes super relevant later and things he said in that first episode at the dinner party are going to become relevant, it is just going to be, like I said, that if later on the CSI style show had a alien invasion, if the stories you saw along the way were enjoyable enough on their own right, but they don't become relevant later, fair enough. I would question that unless the stuff with the boss at the dinner party becomes relevant later, it wasn't enjoyable enough in its own right. People are still going to look at this and they say, well, I'm going to have to watch the first 2 episodes and sit through an hour of just this facade before the characters start to realise what's going on. If they'd done this in a movie, they would have done this within 20 minutes. 20 minutes of really hinting there's something else going on, and then you'd get the reveal that, yeah, there's something else going on. And then you'd be with the character as they start to uncover this along the way. But a whole hour just because it's a weekly TV show, it means that the audience still have to sit through an hour of this if they watch it later. The second episode, Vision had a piece of chewing gum because apparently he doesn't eat. He can kiss and make love and everything like this, but he doesn't eat, even though he can look like a human. Anyway, that doesn't make sense to me either. But he doesn't eat, but he's given a piece of chewing gum. He accidentally swallows it, and he can't get it out of his circuitry, even though he could put his hand through his boss and pull out something he was choking on the previous episode. Now that he's got something foreign going to him, he can't grab it out of himself. Fair enough, he might not be able to. But then he's acting weird for some talent show where him and Wanda are doing like magic, and they'd got like go inside the cupboard and now it disappears, and he ended up, because he was going a bit wonky, doing loads of other amazing feats, and Wanda was having to try and be like, hey, don't give us away. So, which still doesn't really go into how come they know that they've got powers, but they're not really questioning why have we got powers, how have we got powers, or anything to do with that. Why are they keeping these powers a secret? There's just so much which feels like you can just kind of brush past it and accept it and enjoy it for what it is. But if the story is just about them going into a talent show, and that Wanda is just trying to impress some... I didn't even quite get who she was. Just she's influential within the neighbourhood style woman who'd be like, well, if you're going to have children one day... And that might come into it later, because obviously Wanda ended this episode where she was potentially being pregnant. So this character might be important if they're trying to get their kids to school later. But it was weird. It was like, who cares about them doing this talent show? Was them doing their talents in front of people and succeeding to do their magic show and not get caught with their powers, was that really something you want to see later? Is it going to have any relevance into anything else later? Maybe parts of it will, but I still would argue that if this was the first hour of the next Avengers film, it would be said, no, we can't put this out in front of the public. Because they can make it slower burn like this, they can add in more details, but it feels like instead of giving us, like say it's 10 episodes long, and I don't know how many episodes it is, but say it was 10 episodes long, instead of giving us like a 10-hour Avengers movie, and I don't mean just the action sequences, because the Avengers or Iron Man or any of these things can have lots of character-driven stuff. If you watch The Mandalorian, the Star Wars show, on Disney Plus also, there was lots of character stuff, then sprinkled with action. This didn't really have anything that you could call action per se. Certainly no fighting bad guys in it at all. But it wasn't like they even did anything else like exciting with it. It was just standard sitcom style storytelling. And they've certainly done something different, and they could be commended for that. But they've made the deception too great, is what I'd say. They've said, oh, these characters are hidden within an old sitcom, and they're not even giving the hint that they're growing that aware of it. Other than a couple of stares by Wanda and a couple of, well, I don't remember how we met kind of moments. That was it. So, I know it sounds like it's that I'm being really negative about it, and I don't quite mean to be. I'm just picking this apart. I'm picking apart what I think others will interpret this as well, because it's important. I enjoyed the show. I have invested enough into the Avengers and the MCU so that I'm willing to stick along with the ride just to see what this becomes. And it is interesting. There were lots of Easter eggs, like in both episodes there was a commercial, and you see a commercial, I think it was for a watch, and on it it had the Hydra logo, and it said Hydra. And it's like, okay, a Hydra behind this. At the end of the episodes, it showed someone in colour watching WandaVision on a television set, and there was 3 lots of credits. There was the black and white credits starring Wanda Maximoff. There was the coloured credits where it's like, okay, we're in the TV person's world, and then suddenly it would go on to just a black screen and have even more credits. But anyway, so the big questions from this, and there's lots of big questions, is this something which is going to be enjoyable in the long run? I believe so, but time will tell. Did it potentially alienate some people watching it? And I think, even though they probably didn't want this, the answer is absolutely yes. I think what's going to happen is some people will give up on it. Some people will come back to it once they hear, oh no, you've got to see episode 3. Episode 3 suddenly makes everything make sense. Or if that's on episode 5, then later on people will be like, yeah, I'll binge watch it once the whole thing's out. But for now, I couldn't keep track of it with the black and white thing and everything. And I think that's going to be some of the reaction as well. There will be people who watch it thinking, well, if I've got to watch the next Spider-Man film and Black Widow, I guess I have to watch this. And you don't really want that reaction from people. But what did I actually think? Just me, without me trying to analyse it for what I think the greater reaction will be. I liked it. If this wasn't part of the MCU and these were just new superhero characters that they were doing some plot with, I don't know that I would have watched it, or I don't know if I would have stuck with it, truthfully. Just because if it was like, oh yeah, there's a new superhero thing and it starts off where they're stuck in an old TV show, I might think, oh, I'm going to give that a go. That sounds good. But if it was just like this, might be like, yeah, this needs to start picking up the pace soon. I really am giving this leeway because it's the MCU, because it's Scarlet Witch and the Vision. In terms of me being a fan of Bewitched, I used to watch it. It used to come on like Channel 4 in the UK about 9 a.m. every day for several years, and inevitably at times in my life where I was available to watch it at those times, I'd watch it. It'd be like comfort food. It'd be easy watching, just around breakfast time or just after breakfast time, just as, whatever else you're getting on with. And so this felt nostalgic, and I enjoyed it as a homage to Bewitched. And I say Bewitched because I preferred Bewitched to I Dream of Jeannie, but they'd often show those back to back. Was this the greatest thing, though? I would say no. And I think that some opinions on it are going to be dependent on the context. So if later on this is like, oh my god, this becomes something amazing, you'll forgive this first hour of perhaps being a little bit unexpected. Or maybe it'll be that later on, because you now know what you were getting yourself in for, because you've already seen it once, you'll be a lot more receptive to it, and you'll be able to, instead of waiting for something to happen, you know something's not going to happen in these first 2 episodes, and you'll just be like, okay, yeah, I'll watch this for what it is, and, and with the lessened expectations, you'll just perhaps look into some of the Easter eggs within it, enjoy some of the lines, and think, oh, that was relevant or whatever here, and you'll enjoy it more. To give this a ranking out of 5, and I'm going to do these 2 episodes together because I watched them back to back. They came out at the same time, and Disney knew they were putting them both out together. So for me, this is a 2-part premiere episode of WandaVision, and overall, I'm going to give it 3 out of 5. 3 out of 5 with the thought that if this doesn't improve, I would probably still say, yeah, it's probably deserving of a 3 out of 5. But if it, depending how it goes, I might say, well, within the context of things, I was hopeful, but now the hope's been removed, I might lessen that. Might give it a 2. If the payoff seems worth it later, and I'll say, well, this is just the first chapter, and now I get all these extra references, I might put it up to a 4. I doubt I'd give this a 5 ever, because you still have to sit through an hour of Bewitched, and I was hoping perhaps for something more from the MCU, especially within the context of the global pandemic, and we didn't get Black Widow last year like we were supposed to. If what I've been hearing online is correct, we may have been supposed to get Loki or Falcon and the Winter Soldier before these, but either way, and I'm sure we would have got more than just Black Widow last year in terms of Marvel films, because we usually do. So, and I don't know how long this was delayed, but in terms of us getting this, as the first thing since Spider-Man Far From Home, it's like, oh, I was really looking forward to the Avengers, and this wasn't quite it. But I did enjoy it. I am a fan of those old sitcoms, and I think they did a great job at giving those feel for these things. The last thought I am going to say, actually, and this was a thought I had whilst watching it, I couldn't help but feel that Paul Bettany as the Vision, he was trying his best to be Dick York or Dick Sargent from Bewitched. Or the guy who plays J.R. Ewan, who I think was in I Dream of Jeannie. But anyway, never mind that. I forget, Larry Hagman? Is that someone else? Larry David? I don't know. Right. Larry something or other. So, who is Larry Hagman? That might be someone else entirely. But anyway, if you see those kind of characters, Dick York, Dick Sargent, and then you see the Vision trying to be that, I didn't think he was best cast of it. Now, I understand why he is now cast in it, because he's the Vision, and the Vision is, along with Wanda, misplaced in time or within whatever parallel dimension or secret mind spell that's going on, where they think they're in a 1950s sitcom. But he didn't see, like, if you were making this show from scratch, I think you'd get someone who really gave the feel of Dick York, Dick Sargent from Bewitched, and then they'd later become the superhero persona. But he was trying to do it, but with his English accent, it seemed slightly off, because especially there was a line, because Wanda Maximoff is from Sokovia, and the accent she was doing was just like an American accent in this anyway. But there was a bit where it's like, oh, sorry about my wife, she's European. It's like, can't you hear you, mate? You're also European. You're from Blighty. So that didn't quite fit. And when I was thinking about this, I was like, right, to get to this stage, and obviously when they made the Avengers Age of Ultron, or sorry, when they made the first Iron Man film, they didn't know where this would be going. They didn't know that in 12 years, 13 years' time, they would make WandaVision. They were probably still hoping that they'd be able to make Iron Man 2. So, and I believe Paul Bettany was in the first Iron Man film. He was doing Jarvis. He was the voice of Jarvis. And so when you think to casting Paul Bettany as Dick York from Bewitched in this role, he has found his way there by being the voiceover for Iron Man's artificial intelligence, which becomes, several years later, the Vision. And I think, was it, I'm trying to think, 2012, I think, was the first Avengers film. So I think it was either 2014, 2015, so like 6, 7, 8 years later, after just being a voiceover of an artificial intelligence, suddenly Paul Bettany is the Vision, and he's got Jarvis's voice, and that made sense. And he's 6 foot something, And within the costume, especially back then, a little bit younger, he really looked, like, yes, this is the embodiment of Jarvis becoming a superhero. His voice, though, was still this Jarvis intelligent being. But then, from there, he's now suddenly Dick York. And like I said in Avengers Infinity War, now he's got this lovey-dovey story that started in Captain America Civil War with Wanda. It's like, well, now he's got to be showing emotion, he's not just like the intelligent robot, and now he's got to be playing the geeky, gawky, dorky character that Dick York played in Bewitched, the hapless husband without the powers who's always frustrated, but now he's also got powers. And anyway, I'm rambling here. I think you can see what I can go for. So his original role became something else and has now become something else again with a slight mutation along the way. And he did all right, but it didn't quite. That was the element that didn't quite sit right for me for the parody of Bewitched. I don't think he quite matched up to the rest of the picture that they, I think, did a very good job at giving the feel and look and recreating something like the old sitcoms. Anyway, I'm still really excited for the next episode, and I will do a review next week. Do check out, there's going to be a lot more episodes of the Mega Movie podcasts, and if you're fans of video games, pro wrestling or improv, there's going to be loads more podcasts coming up over the weeks, days, months. I'm not going to guarantee that they're going to be on any particular day. I have been going for Mega Movie podcast to usually be on a Monday. Obviously it's a Wednesday this week, just some other projects to take care of. I've been watching Disenchanted. I'll probably do an episode looking at some of that at some point. I probably will talk about I know it's old news now, but I'll probably talk about The Mandalorian, and I'm going to talk about other shows that are coming up, The Walking Dead. So just if you like cult shows, geeky shows, stuff like this, I might have some episodes that look at a few of them, but generally I'll try to do one episode per show that I'm looking at, and I'll put into the title what the thing is that we're looking at. If you're interested in that show, definitely give it a listen. If you're perhaps not into The Walking Dead and it says it's about The Walking Dead, perhaps if that one's not for you, that's cool, but then we'll come back to something you do like. If it's like we spoke about Doctor Who a couple of weeks ago, then, just look out, because there's going to be loads of content. If you like my analysis of these things, if you like my opinion, or if you disagree with it, that's cool as well. Put it into some comment section somewhere, because I am always open to being enlightened or given other points of view which might help shape and form my points of view on things as well. But for now, my name is David Pustansky. I want to remind you that if you enjoy the content, go over to extremeimprov.co.uk and you'll be able to find links to all of our podcasts. We've got something new coming out soon, so it's a bit of a shame that I can't say about it now because it would be helpful, but do look out for it. The best way to find it is on our Facebook page, facebook.com/extremeimprov, or our Twitter @extremeimprov. And of course, if you really want to help us out, go over to our YouTube channel, www.youtube.com/extremeimprov, and smash that subscribe button. From me, until next time, have a good one, stay safe, and always stay extremed.